Hey everyone, so this is a video about Pink Floyd at Pompeii, the IMAX movie that I was lucky enough to see last weekend, as well as the record that's out of the performance. And this is also the fourth part of a series of Pink Floyd videos I'm doing. The last part, at least for now, where I counted down the top Pink Floyd records, or all the Pink Floyd studio records. There's 15 of them, at least the way I'm counting, including soundtracks that are fully Pink Floyd and no other artists. I ranked them all, three different parts, and now this part is talking about Pink Floyd at Pompeii. So a little bit about my history with this video. I think I was probably 16, 17 at the latest when I checked out on VHS from the video store Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii. And I remember watching it with friends, but it's a little hazy as to who was there or how we watched it. But I remember really liking it. I remember thinking the performance was really, really cool. And the Dark Side clips were great. And I used to sometimes get confused. The back cover of Ummagumma looks like Pompeii. Looks like the way the equipment's laid out outside. It kind of looks like maybe that was a Pompeii performance. And for a long time, I explained this in another video. I thought that Ummagumma was a studio album completely because the cassette copy I had, Astronomy Domini, I think I'm finally saying that right, was the only live cut. I don't even remember hearing applause or anything. And then it went straight into that each member of the band doing half a side of the record. Absolutely no live music or anything to indicate that the vinyl was a whole different thing that had a whole live record. So in some ways, I remember thinking maybe that was a Pompeii concert. It's not, but I remember really enjoying it. Yeah, I was pretty new to Pink Floyd. I mean, by the time I watched it, I suppose I didn't think I was new anymore, but in retrospect, all these years later, I certainly was. And I enjoyed it, but I have had a hard time, or had a hard time around that time, kind of enjoying the earlier kind of post Sid Barrett and pre Dark Side of the Moon stuff. But I definitely enjoyed watching it, and I really enjoyed the footage on Dark Side of the Moon. So flash forward all these years later, and especially for me coming at the end of ranking these 15 studio records and listening to that mid period, or I guess early mid period from 68 to 72 of Pink Floyd, a lot. I mean, I was listening to that period before I decided to do the countdown of the records. And this was kind of the perfect thing to cap it all off with, because this is a performance by Pink Floyd in 1971, right as they're on the cusp of breaking through to a huge, massive audience with Dark Side of the Moon and kind of changing who they were as a band forever. So I went with some friends, with Mazzy and Archivist and a friend Joey, and really enjoyed it. I mean, we were in an IMAX theater. One complaint, I guess, would be maybe the sound could have been a little bit louder, although I was worried. I mean, I don't generally go see IMAX movies, but when I saw Oppenheimer, it was painfully loud. So I was a little worried that it would be excessively loud, but it could actually have been a little bit louder to kind of fully integrate us just a tad bit more into the experience. But super cool. I had not seen this in years, since I was 16 or 17 years old. The style of it, it's definitely like a early 70s kind of style. I mean, extreme close-ups. And when you're watching it in IMAX, I mean, do you need to see a close-up of, their teeth and know what kind of dental work they had, or maybe even what they had for breakfast? Do you need to see David Gilmour's crotch in a 15-foot tall zipper? Do you need to see that Roger Waters has some acne or some pimples? Do you need to see that Roger Waters' arm is just incredibly veiny? I mean, hey, whatever. It's part of the experience. The performance was great. Really cool with echoes split into two different parts, opening up and closing. Although I find that, and on this album too, I find that the maybe the power of the song isn't quite as intense when it's broken up like that by several other songs. But very cool to see them working as a band, still doing a lot of the early, more experimental stuff, just getting to the point. I mean, metal had just come out. Apparently, the background on this is the band insisted that they wanted to play One of These Days in Echoes, and the film crew was like not ready for that, and they had to stay up all night long, or the director did, to kind of figure out the shots for doing those two songs, and arrived, on the set completely sleep deprived because he had to do all that work. But yeah, you can see them evolving into a band that could do Echoes, that was about to do Dark Side of the Moon, but just very cool seeing them play together as a band. I mean, honestly, if you have a drummer in your life, or if you have a kid who's taking up the drums, I would get this and show them it, because in a way it's like a drum tutorial. I mean, you're seeing Nick Mason up close. He has more screen time than anybody else, and you could really learn a lot, about drumming by watching that guy. I think it's really cool that they focused on him. Now, whether or not that was intentional, or whether or not they just got the best shots and they couldn't use other stuff, who knows? Apparently, all kinds of film footage of this was completely lost, or intentionally destroyed by some archivist at EMI. At least that's what I read. And in a way, that's too bad, because it would be really cool to see this film footage come together in a different kind of context, different cut. Because I'm sure there's tons of cool stuff in there. I would love to see all the other Dark Side of the Moon footage that wasn't used in this. And when I say Dark Side of the Moon footage, they were recording, or apparently kind of putting the finishing touches on Dark Side of the Moon. And so you kind of see those interviews with them at EMI, having food in the cafeteria. Nick Mason doesn't like pie, spoiler alert, or he doesn't like crust. He likes pie without crust. Seeing all that extra stuff would be really cool. Seeing extra things from the performance would be really cool. But as we have it, is the same shots, same everything that I saw, back in like 1988 or 89. And one thing that memory kind of played a trick on me, I thought for sure they had talked about Adam Hart Mother, like a journalist or somebody was giving Roger crap for it. Maybe it was Obscured by Clouds, because that does come up, and he complains about the sibilance in Obscured by Clouds. So maybe that's what I was thinking of when I watched this. But it was really cool. It was really cool to just watch a performance. We don't do that very often. Sit in a crowd, in an audience, and just watch a performance by a band. And yeah, it was interspersed with interview footage and things, and actually footage from Dark Side of the Moon, which just really, I think, further emphasized just this period of experimentation, this period of kind of being lost in the wilderness a little bit was coming to an end, and they were on the edge of extreme greatness with Dark Side of the Moon, which would come out in 72, and this was released in theaters, or that would come out 73 rather, and this was released in theaters in 72. Originally just a concert, and then later with the Dark Side footage added to it, expanding the length quite a bit. But yeah, it was a real treat. It was cool to see. I don't know personally that I'm gonna watch the concert and the movie anytime soon again. I mean, hopefully if I want to see it again, I won't wait another like 4 or 30 some years or whatever. But I will listen to this record though. I find that having the context of the film, having just watched it, and also, like I was saying, immersing myself in all things Pink Floyd recently, including this early, post Sid Barrett, pre Dark Side of the Moon time period, I was kind of hoping for a record that would function as a live record, as something that I want to play outside of just like, okay, it's something that was the movie was made from, but it's nothing special. I do like listening to this. I think it sounds really good, and I think it does stand up on its own as a record. Now, whether you call it a live record or not, I don't know. The one complaint I have about this packaging is really nice. There's a poster in it. It's a double record. It's got all the songs are performed, including the full, on side D, the full Saucer Full of Secrets. I guess it was edited a little bit. And then there's another version of Careful with That Axe, Eugene, an alternative take. But yeah, this was, I mean, even when you're watching the concert, you realize you're hearing things where you're like, they're not performing this live. Sound effects, things like that, and things you would expect in a Floyd show. So it's interesting when you listen to this live, because it says recorded at Pompeii, but also that they did some of this in Paris. I mean, some of the songs that were done at night are actually done in Paris because they ran out of time shooting in Pompeii. I guess they had it for 5 days, but they're plagued by all these problems with electricity. Like they didn't have electricity on the first day, and then I think just scheduling problems or ran out of time. But it doesn't really disclose any of that, and it doesn't really disclose what's live and what was pre-recorded or what was overdubbed. You know, I was talking to Mazzy. It's like, do you consider this a live record? I don't think he does. You don't hear any clapping. I mean, there was an audience there, the crew, and then apparently there are about 10 kids there as well. But it's a really cool document of the time, and it's refreshing, and it's a good set list. I mean, I think this sounds better than Amagama. We've got a very similar live set, but it doesn't have echoes. It's not at that point where they're just right on the cusp of extreme greatness, and I mean, Echoes is brilliant as well. So you don't, it's a little bit earlier, this is a little bit later. So I do think I'll listen to this as a standalone like concert. Live album, I don't know. I still consider a live album, but I think there's definitely been some enhancements. I'm jumping around, I realize, quite a bit. Back to the film itself, some things that I absolutely loved. I loved seeing extreme close-ups. I mean, I was complaining about, seeing stuff in their teeth, but extreme close-ups of like David Gilmour playing guitar and just realizing how simple and how effective that guy is. I mean, he's always been one of my favorite guitar players, but that was really cool to see. Really cool to see Roger Waters playing bass close-up, what he's doing. Really cool. Probably the highlight for me was seeing during Echoes, seeing Richard Wright and David Gilmour singing. When you watch the movie, it seems like, they're equal. Like they're singing at the same time, which I never really realized. I think I always thought that it was David Gilmour's voice double tracked or something. Still hear it on this, although without the visual, I don't get it as much as I did when I saw that. So that was really cool to see. Other things that I thought were great about this was the sheer physicality of the performance. I mean, not only, you're seeing Nick Mason a lot, and seeing him just keeping that beat, doing these like amazing kind of drum fills, and really just kind of holding the whole thing together. It just reminds me of how hard drummers work, and thinking about these drummers that tour endlessly, into their advanced years or whatever, what a toll that must take on your body to be keeping rhythm like that. The physicality of someone like Nick Mason, the whole show. But also Roger Waters. I mean, it's hard to, how much of this was for effect? I don't know. They're in front of a live audience kind of doing the same thing, but just banging that gong, and also percussive type things at one point for one of the songs, just really hitting it really hard, the drum really, really hard. David Gilmour sitting in the sand at one point, like playing guitar while Roger's banging away. Really cool to watch their eyes kind of connecting with each other. A lot of it was like panning shots and, like I said, extreme close-ups, but there were some where you were able to see like the group dynamics. You were able to see, Nick Mason and Roger Waters kind of in lockstep, and I must say it was a real treat also to see a focus on Richard Wright. Like I said earlier about him and Gilmour doing harmonies on Echoes, but also just seeing how much he was part of the show. So much has been said of Roger Waters and David Gilmour and their different leaderships of the band and all that, but Richard Wright was such a vital component as well, and I don't think he always gets his due. So that was really cool to see. Some inconsistencies because, like I said, they had to film part of this in Paris. It's kind of funny in that Richard Wright has a beard, then he doesn't have a beard, then he has a beard, then he doesn't have a beard. So that's one way of really telling like where the footage is from. He's got a beard, it's Pompeii. If he doesn't, it's not Pompeii. I've become kind of fascinated with Pompeii. It started when I saw this exhibit when I was in Montreal on Pompeii, and had all these artifacts, things that were banned or not, like censored, that they didn't want shown originally. It was very comprehensive, including seeing bodies, seeing these casts, and I swear I haven't seen anything like it since, pictures or video. But some of those looked so real, like they could be you or me. It was amazing. So I've sort of been obsessed with that, these new digs they've done. I watched some documentaries. So I was kind of hoping that this would kind of continue sort of aiding in my fascination or adding to it with Pompeii. I can't say it's really the case. It was cool seeing that the amphitheater, or the Coliseum, where they, back in 79 AD or before that, they were having events there. Like, I'm sure gladiators fighting and plays and things like that. I do kind of wish maybe we'd seen the outside of it, or we'd gotten, I don't know, just a little bit more context there. There were art that was shown sometimes for an extremely long time, and kind of a 70s thing. A lot of what you saw were really dark too, like dark mosaics where it was extremely close up, like everything else in the movie. And sometimes it was kind of hard to see what it actually was because it was so close up, it's like right on it. But yeah, so I was kind of hoping, like I said, that I would see things or learn things about Pompeii that I didn't already know. I can't say that happened, but still super cool that a band like Pink Floyd decided to do a whole live show at Pompeii. So yeah, if you're fortunate to see it, definitely let me know what your experience was. I mean, we all enjoyed it. Everybody that was in our group really enjoyed it. And then also, yeah, I'm curious what you think of the record. I'm curious if it's going to be something that you listen to a couple times and file away, or if this is going to be like, a new kind of go-to Pink Floyd quasi live experience, which I think it might be for me. So I'm really kind of excited about that. Really kind of wonder what else is out there with Floyd. I mean, it seems like their period from Dark Side through up to The Wall is really not that well documented with live footage, and certainly, I'm not aware of any professionally shot footage of the Wish You Were Here tour, or Dark Side, or Animals. I mean, I would love to see that stuff. But this is interesting, like I said, because it's like this band right on the cusp, and there were a couple key things they said in there, like somebody's like, you guys, there's some infighting, isn't there? And Nick Mason, I think, was the one that was like, yeah, there is. We tend to get along better when we work as a group and not really as individuals. And I'm like, huh, well, yeah, just wait. But brilliant, really cool to see. And of course, setting them up for what came afterwards. Do wish there was extra footage lying around. Do wish we could see more, but it was really cool. The Steven Wilson mix is great. It sounded great in IMAX. It sounds good on vinyl. So definitely check it out. It's out on Blu-ray too. Kind of a good time to be a Pink Floyd fan. You never know when things like this are going to pop up. And like I said, hopefully there's more out there. But thanks so much for watching my series. Like I said, this is part 4. If you missed my countdown of Pink Floyd records, my ranking of all Pink Floyd studio records from 15 to 1, I'll make sure and watch those. I'll make sure that I link them below. And again, thanks for everything, everybody watching these. And yeah, leave a comment. I'm curious what you think about all this. Thanks.